Hey guys, it's Eric. Today I want to share with you some of the photos and videos that I took on a recent trip to Reno. Now this trip was actually for a speaking engagement that I had, and I was actually part of an ostomy panel as well, so that was some fun stuff. But in any case, my trip started on Wednesday, October 24th, really early in the morning. I think I took an Uber at like 5 a.m. to get to the airport, with my schedule for the flight actually being at 8 o'clock a.m. Now, I tend to fast, so I don't usually worry about my ostomy being active or anything like that when I'm, in the airport or, at the first part of the flight. But I will say that, as far as bringing ostomy supplies goes, I had no trouble with that, although I was stopped and actually checked because of some of the, I had like a nail clipper in there without a blade, without even a filer, but, they stopped, they saw that on the x-rays and they had to check it. But in any case, it's usually not a problem to go through security. The Toronto security has really never been an issue at all with my ostomy and whatnot, but I didn't actually have to walk through one of those scanners, so they wouldn't have even seen the ostomy. It was just one of the x-ray machines. But in any case, so it was bright and early, like I said. This is actually a flight where I had to stop in San Francisco first before actually going to Reno. There was no direct flight, so I actually had a choice between Salt Lake City and San Francisco. And because I really love California, and I'm kind of obsessed with California, I wanted to land in San Francisco to see what the deal was all about. So I had a really nice view coming into California. It was actually the first time I've ever seen California at this point. And, it was very brief. The layover was like, I don't know, 2 hours, something like that, and then we were off, and then I was off to the Reno Tahoe airport. So I'm gonna say this. I probably say this every video that I make of my trips. If you really want to get and appreciate the views, you have to get a window seat. Seeing photos really isn't enough. Seeing video, that I'm showing you really isn't enough. If you're on a flight, take a window seat because it's so enjoyable, especially if the weather's really nice. Now, in this particular flight, half the flight, I think, reaching Denver, from Toronto to Denver, was pretty much overcast. But as soon as we, passed that point, beautiful mountains, beautiful scenery, flying over California was just gorgeous. And, it really makes the beginning of your trip and maybe even the flight home so much more enjoyable. So one of the cool things I liked about the plane that I was on heading towards California was the fact that they have the screen that has videos and stuff like that. And this particular one had games on it that you could play either, with a computer or with one of the other passengers. So that was really cool. So I decided actually to kill some time playing chess. Unfortunately, the chess engine that they use is not that strong. So even at the most challenging level, I was beating it constantly. So, oh well, it is what it is. But in any case, I had fun. So the San Francisco airport is actually pretty cool. They've got this mini museum in there with the history of the radio. Now I'm going to assume that maybe radios were invented maybe in California. So I don't know. I'm just guessing, but it was really cool to see as you're walking through. And every airport has its own cool thing to see. This happened to be a pretty special one because you can go through. It was like literally walking through a museum. So that was really cool. So flying in towards Reno was really special. The scenery coming in and kind of foreshadowing what I would be expecting for the rest of the trip was amazing. I mean, I actually saw Lake Tahoe from a distance, so that was just beautiful. And I really enjoyed that flight in. Even though it was very short, I think it was only an hour and a half or something from San Francisco to the Reno airport. So once I got to the Reno airport, the person who picked me up, her name is Jennifer Lee. She's actually the president of the Reno Ostomy Association. She's the mastermind behind this whole trip. She had been planning this for nearly a year, and it was so amazing to finally be able to meet her. She's such a hard worker. She's so dedicated to helping patients, and she's just an incredible person, and I was so happy to meet her. We actually, before I even got to my hotel, we went on a little tour of Reno, which was really enjoyable. I got to see some of the really cool sights that they had there. Because it was fall, all the leaves and everything were just gorgeous. So they were changing, lots of reds and yellows and oranges. So that was really cool to see. And then I finally headed off to my hotel before we went off to dinner. Now, I unfortunately don't have any photos of the dinner or the food that I was eating there, but we actually met up with Sue and Marty, and both ladies I would be actually on a panel with later on in the trip. So it was really great to meet them ahead of time, to kind of chat. They were really fun ladies to be around, and we had a really good time for dinner there. And then I finally just retired after that to my hotel room and kind of watched Forensic Files for most of the evening. Okay, so Thursday, October 25th, this would actually be the day that I would be presenting later on in the evening. But I started the day off just witnessing a beautiful sunrise. And actually, I had tried to video record the sunrises while I was there, and only on the last day that I get a really good presentable one. So you'll be able to see that later on in this video. But today, Jennifer and I, we basically went out on a tour of, of Reno. We got to see some, amazing sights. We actually, at one point, we came across like a family of deer, which was just unbelievable to like literally be driving around. And I'm thinking, you've got to have some kind of animals here, maybe like squirrels or something like we do, up here in Toronto. And out come these deer like running across the street. So we actually ended up following them, and we made it to like this residential street where, they were picking like apples out of a tree. It was unbelievable to witness, but it was so cool. It really summarized the, the nature and the beauty of the area so well. I was so glad to have been able to see that. So we ended up driving a little bit more, and we made it to this trail called the Tom Cook Trail. And this is actually a really cool area. Now, keep in mind that the elevation in Reno is like many thousand feet already. So as we were doing these hikes, like if you're not used to it, you could really feel, the oxygen deprivation. And it reminded me of when I had anemia, actually. And you kind of, you breathe and you breathe, but it doesn't seem like you're getting oxygen in. That's what it was like. But, it's like that for the first, let's say, half hour, and then my body at least started to get used to it. So as we were going on this hike, it felt very laborious at first, but then it got much easier, and it really gave me some time to soak in some of the views, and the views out there are just phenomenal. I mean, I told Jennifer, I said if I lived here, I would just strap on a backpack and just go. Like, I would just be in these mountains just hiking day in, day out. Like, it's just so incredible to be in that kind of landscape. And this is not something that I would normally see around here in Ontario. I don't think we have too many places like this close by. I know obviously we have some pretty cool hiking trails, but nothing like this. Not the same terrain and the rocks and all that you would witness out here in Reno. So after a bit of hiking, we went to a restaurant called the Grateful Garden. And they had a lot of like vegan meals. I think like probably half the menu was vegan. And it was actually a really cool place. We ended up going here twice, but they have some phenomenal food there. At this point I had like some tofu and pineapple. I had this salad with this like a homemade hummus, and then like a vegan ranch dressing, I think it was. So that was really, really tasty. And then we went off to continue on our hikes. So we made a stop at this place called Bartley Ranch, and we did go on a short hike there, but you know, as we were walking, as we were going through this hike and kind of heading back towards the car, you know, we see all this like kind of old, like antique farming equipment. And that was actually really cool. It was almost like walking through a museum outdoors. So it was very much mirrored my experience in the San Francisco airport. So that was really cool just to see some of the equipment they used, you know, 100, 150 years ago. And that was quite a treat. Okay, so I have to sidetrack a little bit here. When I was preparing for the actual presentation, you know, I had a shower. I wanted to change my appliance because we had been out, you know, all day hiking. You know, I pull out a wafer and, you know, I take it out of the package and I'm like, oh, damn, it's one of the moldables. Now, in and of itself, that wouldn't be concerning because I tend to bring moldables, at least a couple of moldable wafers when I go on a trip, because if I, you know, have my scissors taken away or, you know, I have to do an emergency appliance change and I really don't have time to, you know, measure and cut my wafer, I want to have moldables there because it's very easy to do. So, you know, in this case, I know moldables for me, they don't work very well. They, you know, they work, but they don't last very long. So I don't get like even a day of wear out of them. So I thought that's okay. You know, I've got more wafers. So I started going through my, you know, my supplies bag, and they're all moldables. And I thought, well, you know, I said, I'm glad I at least have a second set of supplies like in my backpack. So I go to my backpack, open it up, and to my shock and utter amazement, I had packed all moldable wafers. And I thought, man, this is not going to work out, especially if we continue to do hikes. So I actually text messaged Jennifer, you know, being an ostomy nurse, she would probably have some extra supplies. And I said, hey, Jennifer, I need some of my, you know, standard wafers, you know, my standard Hollister wafers, please. Do you have any? And she said, yeah, we've got a few. So I ended up picking those up later in the evening with her, and I did put on the moldable for that time. But I'll tell you, you know, after I did my presentation, I got home, I changed my appliance again. That moldable was already degrading, and it probably would have been a very bad time if I went an entire day with it. And I kind of expected that. I don't bring them along, you know, to wear for 3-4 days. So I'm so grateful that she was able to help me out there. But I did end up having the presentation. It went very well. There were over 30 people there, and it was like a mixed audience. So there were actually ostomy patients, some of their family members, colorectal surgeon there were ostomy nurses. So it was actually a really nice audience to speak to. And I do have that presentation up. You'll be able to see that on some of my other videos here, and I'll leave a link down below. But that went really well. I was really happy about that. It was also really fun and humbling meeting the people afterwards, after the presentation, you know, people coming up and saying that, you know, they followed my work. And I was really grateful that they, you know, took the time out to come and see me and to, you know, learn and share their experience. It was so nice to see, and I really do appreciate that. So after the presentation was done, you know, Jen and I were pretty beat, you know, from the day that we had of hiking. But you know, I basically went to my hotel. You know, I had snacks and things like that in the hotel, so I really wasn't up for having another dinner. But, you know, I put on Forensic Files again and kind of burned the night away until it was time for bed. Okay, so it's finally Friday, October 26th. This day would be the day that we explored Lake Tahoe. Now, you know, this was kind of the highlight of the whole trip, because Lake Tahoe is such a spectacular place to visit. But not only that, half of it is in California. So this would actually be my first time walking on Californian soil. I was so excited for this day. So Jennifer and I, we got up. We went out. We didn't even really have breakfast. I had some snacks before we left. She said she was good to go. And we just basically went out on this amazing adventure. So one of the things I really like about driving around Lake Tahoe is that there are these like hot spots where you have these incredible views, and they set it up so that you can park your car, you can go, and then you can see over the lake. And I mean, you can see just from the video how just absolutely beautiful the whole place is. Now keep in mind, a lot of this mountain range that we were driving through, we're talking elevations of like 6,000 feet plus. So the air was, you know, a lot thinner than what it was at ground level. And, you know, ultimately when we do go on some of the hikes that we took, you know, I was struggling a little bit. Obviously, I'm not used to that kind of low oxygen environment, but you know, the body adapts, and you know, as you continue to push through, it got a lot easier. So that was I was very fortunate that my body smartened up and we were able to continue. So for part of our tour, we went through a place called Incline Village. You know, we went through some of the beaches that they had there. Beautiful, beautiful area. Like everything about the area is beautiful. The houses, the scenery, you know, the view of the lake, the beaches. It's just an incredible place to witness there. So I'm really glad that she was able to take me here. Now, one place that we actually stopped at was a place called Sand Harbor. Now, Sand Harbor is probably one of the most beautiful places that I've been to. It has like everything you can imagine. You know, there's a nice mountain in the background. There's a, you know, beautiful view of the lake. There's a beach there. It's like a sandy beach. There are these incredible boulders and large rocks that, you know, seemingly just seem out of place, but you know, it all fits in so amazingly well, and it was a really nice place to stop at. I'm really glad actually that I came this time of the year, because there were hardly any people walking around there. The beaches were pretty much empty, and you know, you kind of feel like you had the whole place to yourself. Definitely a place to check out if you go to Lake Tahoe. Okay, so at some point along our drive, we actually crossed the Nevada and California border, which was actually really cool.
I never even knew that was there.
That's it, we're in California.
We are.
So cool.
Welcome to California.
Thanks, Google. That's so cool.
Funny.
Holy smokes. So when we were in California, we stopped at a place called Freshies. Now, Freshies has like a ton of vegan options there. They're like dedicated vegan food. You know, I settled on a couple of dishes that were just really well made. The actual server was really helpful in suggesting certain meals and whatnot. So that was a really fun meal, and then we continued on our way. So something I really love seeing, especially in a place like California, are the super tall trees. Now, we weren't anywhere close to, you know, seeing redwoods or anything like that, but, you know, just seeing these amazingly tall, I would imagine very old trees is really something to behold. I mean, these trees were older than me, older than most of the people that I know, and just to see them just standing so solid, you know, I don't know, I can't even really explain it, but there's just such an incredible beauty about seeing something like that and driving through it, and just, you know, being grateful enough to have that opportunity. It really touches me. Okay, so the goal of our whole Lake Tahoe trip was really to make it to Emerald Bay. The view is just spectacular. There's actually a little hike from where we parked to get down towards the water and the beach there, and it was really enjoyable, pleasant walking experience, and I just had a blast. So at this point, Jen and I realized that, hey, we're really running out of time here, and if we want to make it back to do the panel, you know, we have to really go. So we, you know, headed back towards Reno. We did stop at a couple more places just to, you know, take in the sights. I actually had to pick up some souvenirs of California before I crossed back into Nevada. So we ended up doing that. We ended up making it back just in time. We had a really, really good panel discussion with both Sue, myself, and Marty, and that went really well. So we went to dinner at this place. Unfortunately, I don't remember the name. The only photo that I have is actually of the small salad starter that I took. But we went there with a few other people, and I ended up ordering this pizza called the Vegan Herbivore, which is kind of like a weird name because vegan implies herbivore. But in any case, the pizza was really, really good. You know, I really regret not taking a photo of it, but I essentially ate pretty much the whole thing. I shared a couple slices with a few of the other people that were there, but you know, me and pizzas, I mean, I'll eat one after another. Doesn't bother me at all. It was a really good meal. And then after that, you know, I made it back to the hotel. This would be my last night at the hotel, so in typical fashion, I put on some more Forensic Files, made a cup of Mr. Noodles, had some Cliff Bars, and then headed off to sleep. Saturday, October 27th. Sadly, this was the last day that I'd be spending in Reno, and you know, it was a short day because I had to leave to catch my flight at something like 1:30. So I did manage to catch the sunrise on this day. I finally figured out how to get it, you know, to look pretty good. Now, the view of my hotel couldn't extend, you know, east enough that I was able to actually see the sun rising. But as you can see, I mean, it looks just really, really great. You know, after I got up, you know, I packed everything and we headed off to the Grateful Garden again for breakfast. And we actually met up with another stoma nurse there who, you know, kind of just chatted with, bounced some ideas off of, and it was really great, actually. So soon after breakfast, unfortunately, I had to say goodbye to Jen and head back to the airport. You know, I think really to summarize, I really do want to thank Jen. I can't thank her enough because this has been such an incredible experience for me to visit, you know, Reno, to finally see California, to be able to speak to so many amazing people, to be able to meet with so many amazing people. It's just, it really touches my heart, and I'm so grateful to her and all the hard work that she's put into actually setting this up and getting me there. So, you know, I keep joking, you know, if the opportunity ever comes up and you need me back in Reno, Jen, you know where to find me. I definitely won't hesitate to say yes. So thank you. So my flight back actually had me landing in Denver, and Denver would be my very short layover, but it would get me back home to Toronto. Now, funny enough, the plane going back home to Toronto was like basically empty. I think the first maybe third of the plane was full, and then I had like the entire back part of the plane like totally empty. It was kind of cool. It actually made it really easy to, you know, go to the bathroom if I needed to, and that was kind of fun. I did have a window seat again on this one, and you know, it was a pretty relaxing flight. I popped on a movie and basically watched, you know, the first half of Infinity Wars. So, but in any case, the trip was amazing, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Definitely more to come. Again, see the links below for the presentation that I gave, and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care.